Hi, friends. It's Christine Haas, and welcome to this series I'm calling Corona Conversations. As I'm recording this right now, we're about a week or so into the national emergency declaration by President Trump. And life as we have known it has basically imploded for so many of us. People all around the world are terrified. They're scared about their health, their family's health, and of course, their business and the economy. Everybody is gripped with fear, it seems, these days. So I'm launching this series because I see a huge need. We all have to take back control of our own emotions right now to allow us to make the best decisions possible for our families, our business, our employees. But how do you stay centered through all of this? How do you stay focused, and especially if you have a business and you're trying to figure out the well-being of your employees and have to deal with the growing anxiety and the impact of this virus all at the same time? Today, I'm talking about how to decide what to do right now, especially when you feel paralyzed. Should you be trying something new? Should you choose a new opportunity during this time, or you dig in? My guest today is one of the best entrepreneurs that I've ever met. He's inspirational, he's smart, but he's also been there. He's been in the trenches. Pleased to have CEO of DigitalMarketer, Ryan Deiss, on today. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, Christine. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And for most people who don't know, I've had the privilege of working for you after I left TV. And I learned so much from you when I was talking about the transition from offline to online and the impact of digital marketing on businesses, which I think is huge right now, because a lot of people who have never been online very much or having increased social media presence has never been their main core business. They're having to do it full time right now. So I wanted to get some tips on that. But first, I wanted to ask you about a story that I remember you telling me when I first started working at DigitalMarketer. And you said there was a time that you got a phone call from a accountant of yours while you're on the couch watching TV thinking I was fine, and things changed pretty rapidly. I love the story because it really showcases how difficult times can be anytime, not just during a pandemic. Business owners have been through the trenches before and have had to figure it out. So in a nutshell, tell me about that story and how you really dug in and what you did and how you reacted.
Sure. So, I mean, just to be full admission, this was a self-inflicted crisis, unlike the one that I believe business owners are dealing with today. So, I'm happy to tell the story, but just know I expect no sympathy from anybody for it. But yes, I was sitting on my couch one Sunday night, and I received a phone call from my accountant. I now know it's really bad, by the way, when your accountant calls you on a Sunday night. But he was letting me know that that it looked like I owed the IRS what was truly an almost impossible amount of money. The year before, I had a really good year, and that was what he said. He's like, "Wow, you had a really good year last year." Again, I now know it's bad when your accountant says, "Oh, you had a really good year." And I had, but I was digging out of a hole from the previous year. So a lot of the revenue that I made that year really just went to go pay off debts. It went to, just frankly to make up for other mistakes that I had made as an immature business owner. So it's not like I went out there and was buying lots of spending crazily. I just wasn't doing what I should have been doing in terms of cash management. So long story short, I owed the IRS about $250,000 and I didn't have it. And he called me on a Sunday night, and I really needed to write the check by that next Thursday, or I was going to start incurring really, really, really significant penalties and interest. And when you owe the IRS $250,000, that adds up really fast. And so, yeah, I had my own little private moment of crisis right then and there, sitting on the couch. I actually cried, which is the only time in my adult life I can really recall crying. And I was just kind of in this place of despair. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know how I can fix this. And I just remember sitting next to my wife, and she got up and she said to me, "I'll give you 24 hours to mope and feel sorry for yourself, but then you need to get to work. And I don't know why you're so worried. You'll figure it out. You always do." And what that moment taught me was the importance of resiliency, right? This resilience is a muscle. And I think a lot of people haven't been tested. A lot of people, especially business owners and entrepreneurs, we've had a heck of a bull run for the last 10 years. I mean, there are people who started businesses in the last decade who have never dealt with any economic downturn or issue at all. They haven't been tested. They don't know, they haven't built those resiliency muscles. Those who have, if you've been there and you've made it through, you're probably taking this in stride. I'm not saying that it isn't hard, and I'm not saying this isn't unique. This is a unique time, but that skill and having that muscle of resilience is one that I think everybody is exercising right now. On the story, long story short, I guess I did wind up digging out of that hole. We did wind up pivoting, doing a lot of last minute promotions, and generating enough in revenue to where I was able to stroke the IRS a very, very, very large check before any penalties and interest were due. I was completely broke, and it felt beautiful.
Yeah.
It just felt good to be back to even again. And so a lot of this also right now is just adjusting some of our expectations. A lot of people came into this year with big hopes and goals for what they were going to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Those may not happen right now. Your goal may merely be to survive. That's okay too. What's important is that you don't give up.
Yeah, very true. And that's why I remembered that story and thought immediately of why I wanted to interview you and talk about how to tap into that resiliency. Now, one of the things that I've heard so much from my clients, and I've seen it just even peers and mentors, the biggest thing, I think the gut check, so to speak, is what do I do now? And is there a way to pivot, number one, or now I've got shiny object syndrome and I'm trying to figure out how to, go to this side of the market because it looks like, that's where everybody's at. How do you really kind of put pen to paper and say, okay, this is where I go and this is what I'm going to do without having those thoughts of maybe if I go this direction, I'll survive faster or better?
Sure. So I think a lot of it depends on the type of business that you're in. So if we think about it like a continuum, there are some businesses who are thriving right now as a result of this. If you think about food delivery companies, if you think about Zoom video conferencing, think about what we're doing right now, a lot of remote work tools. A company that I sold last year, survivallife.com, that's in the survival and preparedness space. It is having its best month, understandably, in almost a decade. So there's companies that are really thriving right now, and I think that's important to remember. Right? It's cliche, but there's always a bull market somewhere. And then there's companies who they're hurting. I mean, look, if you're in the travel and hospitality space, you're hurting, and I know that. And you're really truly just in survival mode. But there's also a lot of companies that are in this middle, right? And I think that's the vast majority of companies. So you haven't necessarily been, utterly destroyed by this, and you're just hoping to hang on until what was normal returns. And maybe you're not like just holding on to what is now just a runaway, freight train. You're kind of in that middle, and you're just wondering, what do I do? How do I respond to that? So I kind of want to speak to that more than anything, because I think it represents the majority of the people who are going to see this, and I think it's where you have the most conflict. Is that okay, Christine?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And one question I really wanted to hone in on too is, as you said, a lot of people were doing fantastic or had these big dreams for quarter one and quarter two, and they're not transpiring. But the one thing that you did, I know recently, was get brand new offices. You have a beautiful space. You have a team that looks up to you every day for leadership. How do you stay calm, and how do you keep the boat calm, so to speak, in the middle of all this? Because they look to you.
Well, so what I did about a week and a half ago is I had my own little private freak out moment, and I'll just totally admit that I think anybody who's in a position of leadership who isn't scared, who isn't worried, you're either delusional or you're lying to yourself and you're lying to your team. It's appropriate to be worried right now. It really is. And so I think you got to kind of do business with that. But ultimately, what I realized is that we can make it through this. I don't know how long this is going to last, but I do believe it's something. If it's not measured in weeks, it'll be measured in months, and hopefully just a couple. Even if it's 90 days, we can last. We can make it through that. But as a leader, what your team wants to see is that you do have a plan moving forward, and so. That's the most important thing right now in terms of what does it mean to lead. It means just that leaders lead. And so you need to formulate a plan. So getting kind of back to your previous question, if you are in that messy middle where you're not sure what to do, um, from a business perspective, you need to see now as a moment, not for revenue extraction from your customers. Now is a time, though, when you can really maximize and you can um, really focus in on audience expansion
Mhm.
and influence expansion. Okay, what I mean by that is now is not the time to sit on the sidelines. Now is not the time to stop all marketing efforts. Right now, our average cost per click on Facebook and Instagram is down by 40%.
Wow.
Okay, because so many advertisers have pulled out. And yet, what has happened to social engagement? Social engagement double, triple. If you look at your screen time on your phone, I
Mhm.
bet it's up double, triple, quadruple what it was the same time last month, right? We are in massive information consumption mode right now. And so, if you're wondering what you should be doing as a business and as a brand, the answer is you need to be talking to your customers. Okay, and you need to be a messenger of hope. You need to talk about what's going on, be realistic about it, but you need to be giving them exactly. You're modeling it right now, Christine. What we're doing right now. This is what businesses need to do, and it may not mean recording videos. Maybe it means sending out direct mail. Maybe it means sending out emails and those kinds of things. But now is the time when you need to be disseminating information. Now is the time we need to look to expand your audience. And so what that looks like is giving more value in advanced content. All right, more top of funnel, to use kind of a marketing phrase. More lead generation. Now is not the time to launch something brand new.
Mhm.
Okay. Now is not the time to do big high ticket things. Now is the time to expand your audience, expand your influence, because when the snapback occurs, right, this will end. You've got to know that this will end. And when it does, there will be a snapback. There always is. And
Mhm.
when it occurs, it's Newtonian, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I believe there's going to be a greater and opposite reaction, and the beneficiaries of that are going to be the businesses that in this time give the most. All right, so that's what businesses need to focus on.
For sure. Can't agree more. And I was talking to some of my clients, and I've been fortunate that I've gotten more success for them right now, because if I put them in this conversation, they get on TV easily. There are so many different angles. And so I try to help people understand that, in the fall, or, later next year, you're going to look back and go, why didn't I maximize this time instead of eating chips on the couch, right? One of the things that I wanted to really talk to you about as well, and I know, and I want to tell our viewers too, that you have a special offer that you put out for everybody. And we're going to talk about how to access that in a moment, because it's so valuable. But a lot of my clients are in the legal space. And in some cases, they own big law firms. And they've been doing such great business in their own business model that they have kind of teetered with social media and some of the digital marketing, but they haven't had this huge need the way that they do now. And so I think that there are a lot of niches or industries out there where people are kind of like, I don't even know how to embrace digital marketing. I have to look at my website now. Is my website, the place that all my commerce is going to come from? And they don't know anything, and they're scared. So what tips would you give for, say, for example, the lawyer or the top law firm that hasn't really been doing much more than TV commercials instead of social media? What tips would you give somebody who, needs to embrace that ASAP?
So the simplest way that you can get started in digital, which I think is a smart thing. I mean, if you weren't doing it yet, this is as good a reason to do it as ever, right? We are forced to go digital. So if you weren't doing it yet, this is as good a reason as any. And if you want a very, very simple digital marketing plan, here it is. What are the 10 most frequently asked questions that your ideal prospect, that your ideal customer is asking? Not after the sale, but before the sale. All right. So what are those questions that you're almost sick of answering, right? When people call, you're kind of sick of answering them, but if somebody's asking this question, that they have a problem that you can solve. Make a list of at least 10, and then record a video answering that question. Simple 2 to 5 minute video. If you need resources on where to locate the questions that people are asking, you can go to sites like Quora, which is Quora. Quora.com is a question and answer site. There's another free resource at answerthepublic.com. Answerthepublic.com, another good free resource to figure out the questions that people are asking. But when people go to Google, they go to Google to ask it questions. All right. So if you are the one who is answering the most questions, then you are going to gather the largest crowd. So start with 10, create 10 videos, have those videos transcribed, turn that into blog content, but then begin to post those videos at least one a week on LinkedIn, post them on Facebook, post them on Instagram. You might need to tweak the formatting a little bit. And then my recommendation, and this is what most people won't do, but advertise to those videos. Pay to boost that content so that it is actually seen. Because here's the thing, right now in social, you can post something in Facebook, nobody's going to see it. All right, that's just the reality. If you post something in social today, nobody's going to see it. Facebook wants you to pay to make sure that people see it. That's just how it works. That's how the game is played. Most people are not willing to do that. If they buy an ad, they want it to look like an ad. I'm saying produce great content and then pay to boost that content, pay to sponsor that content so that people actually see it. When they see that content and you answer their questions, they're going to reach out, they're going to find you. And you can then set up retargeting campaigns for a way that more advertising can kind of follow them once they've watched a little bit of that video. There's a lot of other kind of more advanced strategies, but the simplest way to get started in digital marketing is to simply answer the questions that people are asking, to engage with the conversation that people are already having. That is one of the most simple and yet powerful rules of marketing. Don't try to start a new conversation. Engage with the conversation that people are already having. And it's really important in this time, right? Right now in this time, the offers that you're putting out, you've got to do an audit of all of your advertising. Think about your tone and your messaging, right? If you're all rah, rah, happy, clappy, and everybody's scared, then that's a problem. So you need to double check your tone in your messaging. I'm not saying that you need to be fear-based, but there does need to be some reality to it. You need to acknowledge the reality that's going on and look at your visuals. If you've got massive crowd shots in your commercials and in your ads, that's not our life right now. You need to adjust that. Okay. So make sure that all of your marketing, all of your messaging acknowledges the reality, and make sure that from an offer perspective, like I said before, that you are focusing on giving content, giving value, not simply asking for the order. The orders will come. Just be patient.
In digital marketing, obviously, is going to be such a need right now. And so you're fortunate in that you are bringing out so much content that you've already produced. You just answered a question based off of people who are just starting into this conversation now. For those that may have been, I did some content last year and that type of thing, wouldn't you agree, and maybe you can expand upon this, that this is a time to repurpose the stuff that you've already done and get it out there in volume?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you don't have to create a bunch of new right now. You just need to make sure that it is appropriate. Okay. People are still, I think what we saw, and it's happening at different places in different times of the country, right? So you got to know where you are and know the general tone. But in general, I know for us, it was last week was when everybody really truly hit the freak out button. This week, people are still very scared. They're still very worried. I'm not saying they won't be next week, and depending on where you live, if things start to really, if it becomes a hot spot, then it could get bad and people go back into panic mode. But after a week or two, people begin to adjust to whatever the reality is. I'm not saying that the threat has passed. I'm simply saying that humans are remarkably resilient and we will adjust to our circumstances. And what adjusting to circumstances mean is they start going back to life, right? They start looking for things to buy. They start asking the same questions. The problems that they were dealing with, in their life that had nothing to do with COVID-19 will still be there. And so they're still going to continue asking those questions. So yes, there's no reason to go out and create completely new. You don't have to do that. You just need to audit your previous content to make sure, is it appropriate? Are the visuals right? The offers that you're making today, are they appropriate for the season of life that we're in right now?
I'm asking all of my guests this one question, and I hope that you don't mind. It gets a bit, structured, but what would you suggest for people who get up in the morning, turn on the news, and try to, digest everything? I guess my biggest question is, what is the morning routine that you have to keep your head on straight?
Yeah. So I've got 4 kids, so which I know you know. So the idea of a morning routine is kind of comical because especially now when they're not in school, they're going to dictate some of that. I'm actually, I'm in my. I know we're in a shelter in place right now in Austin, but I'm in my office. I'm the only person here because it's literally the only place I can get decent internet and work done. I figure it's as safe as anywhere else. But
Yes.
but what I think a key is to limit your intake of information. But I do think as leaders we need to stay informed. So what I do is I wake up at about 5 a.m. and from 5 to 7 I mass consume information. I primarily consume the information and ideas of people that I don't necessarily agree with. Either I don't necessarily agree with them politically, or I don't necessarily agree with their kind of take on the world right now. So I generally tend to be pretty optimistic. So I want to read the pessimists, right? I want to read people who disagree with me. I want to challenge my underlying, presuppositions. And that's changed my mind a number of times, on things. I want to be open-minded to that. But I go 5 to 7. Then I've got some, family time and breakfast. And then I want to start working at about 9. And look, I want to still put in, whether I'm working at the office or from home, I need to still put in a good 9 to 5. Not because I necessarily need to. I mean, granted, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I need to do it for my own sanity. All right. Now is not the time to throw all of your routines out the window. Your routines and your habits are what are going to keep you sane in this season. But then what I do is from about 5 to 7, when I'm done, I do another information consumption period. So I'm actually consuming a lot more information than I normally would about the general world because I need that to make decisions. Right? I need that to make decisions for the company. I need to make that to make decisions as a parent. But I basically give myself from 5 to 7, and then again from 5 to 7. 5 to 7 a.m. I can read kind of what's going on in Europe and Asia because they will have just sort of come out of their day. 5 to 7 p.m. And then I shut it down. And after about 7, it's game time, with the kids, it's bath time, it's sleep time. So that's my routine.
Okay, I love it. You always have such great advice. One thing that I do want to make sure everybody knows about is the offer that you have going right now. Do you want to talk about what you've opened up?
Yeah, so kind of what I said before in terms of what we need to be thinking as we are marketing. Now's not the time to sit on the sidelines. Now is the time to market, but we need to do it appropriately. Double checking, your tone, double checking, your visuals, also double checking the offer you're making. I said now is the time to be focusing on audience expansion. And so we decided to just lean all the way into that at Digital Marketer. We decided to take our flagship subscription, literally the subscription that basically includes all of our products, all of our trainings, all of our certifications, all of our playbooks, everything. And we said, let's just make it free. Let's open it wide for anybody who wants it through for the month of March. And so we made that decision last week. And I just believe when everybody else is panicking and when everybody else is hoarding, it's going to be the people that remain calm, and it's going to be the people that release who are the ones that make it through and who are the ones that succeed. And so as difficult as it was, because we knew it would cost us a lot, like this is going to cost us a lot. I mean, it'll be measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue not generated this month by opening it up. And we actually made the decision that we're going to allow people to sign up for free through the end of March. And then we're actually going to extend everybody who gets in, by midnight on March 31st, we're going to let them continue to have access through April 15th. Because obviously if you sign up on March 31st, you'd have access for a couple of hours. That's not helpful. So we figured we needed to transition. So open up through March, and then everybody who's in is going to continue to have access through April 15th. Now, here's what's interesting that I think is important for people to know. So I'll give you kind of the marketing lesson behind this. Our decision to do that had nothing to do with this would be a good promotion. Our decision to do this was not strategic. It was simply what's the right thing to do right now in this time and in this climate, and how can we model what I'm telling all of our members to do, which is to focus on audience expansion, not revenue extraction. How can we model giving as much as possible? We said, let's take our main product and give it, right? So that's where it came from. Here's what's happened though. Right now, as we stand here today, nearly 40,000 people have taken free accounts to Digital Marketer, nearly 40,000. Wow. We thought if we had 10,000 that would be great. Nearly 40,000. 1,000 people. And I believe that by the time it's all said and done, we'll be at or above 50,000.
Yes.
Now, obviously not all of these people are going to turn into paying members. Half of them won't. I'd be shocked if 10% did. But if we just get a few percent of the folks who are there to become members, that's business changing. We will generate more revenue from this giveaway than far more than we lost, substantially more. Now, again, this is not me taking a victory lap, and this may not even happen. This is simply me saying that I believe that those who do give now are going to receive later. I believe
Yep.
that's going to happen to us. It's not why we did it. I
Yep.
didn't. I don't want this to happen. Or I don't like that this is happening. I don't
Right.
like that people are sick, but I do believe that it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just thinking of my own clients, and that's why I wanted to interview you. Is I see so many people who have not embraced digital marketing, and it's hit them hard now because they didn't do the hard work a while back. And so, learning this now, as you said, there's no better time. There really is no better time to embrace this, because look at the people who have built up huge YouTube channels. They're fine right now.
Yeah.
They're getting their revenue. They're doing okay. They're not worried. They might be worried for their health, but not the economy the way that we are. So I really believe that you and the digital marketing team as a whole serve so many different businesses so well that you've just been a mentor to me. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk to you and get your advice.
Before we run, can I give one more tip?
Please.
Um, if you are not doing this right now, I talked about putting out good content, email. You've got to be collecting the email addresses of your customers.
Yeah.
So many restaurants in particular are hurting right now. The ones that are doing better are the ones that are able to email their customers and say, you know, here's a special that we're running today. You know, come and do takeout, right? Let us do delivery. Here's a coupon. You know, please support us, right? The ones that are able to still communicate with their customers are the ones that are going to make it out all right. The ones that just relied on people to show up, they're not, because they didn't have the relationship.
Right.
Okay, relationship is that ability to communicate. That's what marketing is at the end of the day. And so if you do not have the email addresses of your customers, of your prospects, then hunker down, make it through this period. You will. But gosh, as soon as you get on the other side of it, you've got to be producing the kind of content and information, whether it's coupons or newsletters, whatever it is. You have to be producing the kind of content that people will willingly and excitedly give you their email address and permission to follow up. Because the next time something like this happens, and it may not be a pandemic, right? It may be, you know, a typical financial thing. It may be a natural disaster. Whatever it is, the next time something like this happens, you must be in a position to communicate directly to your customers. You cannot simply rely on outside sources. So make sure that you're doing that as well.
Great tips as always. Ryan, thank you so much. All my best to your family. Stay safe, stay healthy. Tell the whole DM team I said hello, and thanks for your hard work. And hopefully we'll have this continued communication because it's so helpful.
I will. Thank you. And same to you and yours.
All right, thank you. And for everybody out there, again, that link was on the bottom. You can also go to digitalmarketer.com at any point. Ryan Deiss, you can follow him on LinkedIn as well. He is got a huge following and posts daily and really great tips on a consistent basis. The one thing that I just really want to stress here is that even though so much is negative right now, and it's easy to get consumed by watching the news, I'm a former news person and my clients are on TV, so I have to watch it. It's important to take a break. And it's also important to remember that when there are unknowns and uncertainty, don't add more uncertainty. Stick to the core, as you heard Ryan talk about. Go to your core fundamentals and your ethics, and realize that what is strong or bold action, that maybe one thing you can do every day, do it. I can tell you from a personal level, I've done some video, but I've always had help. I've always been really, really grateful to have somebody who has set all this up for me. And I'm intimidated by trying to do this all on my own. And it's scary. And I found a little bit of confidence today in just setting this up myself, getting this series started, and knowing that, hey, I did it. It would be so much easier for me to sit in bed and read on Instagram and look at pictures and drink wine, but I'm not, because I know it's not going to pay off. And I just hope that Ryan Deiss and his team can give you some inspiration about little things you can do, just little steps every day to keep yourself out of panic and more focused into your center. So remember, you can follow me on Media Max Out on Facebook. You can always find me on my website, christinehaas.com. And I really look forward to continuing this conversation, COVID conversations. We're going to get real with all different areas of business, how it's being impacted, mistakes that you can make right now, SBA loans, how to make the best application. We're going to talk about all of these things that are pertinent in your life right now. I just hope that we can continue the communication. All the best to you and your family. Stay healthy.